Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to our information session for special education on April 1st, 2025. You'll see that I put in the chat requesting everyone to please be sure their microphone is muted, and also there's a link to today's PowerPoint. Excuse me, I've got a lot juggling here. Okay, so today's agenda, I'll just read the bold face ones. That is, we have Dan Publicover from Office of Assessment and Standards. We have Carolyn Bostic going to give us some updates from OSIS, the Office of Special Ed Services. I'll be talking about some educational interpreter professional development opportunities, and then we will have the Academic Alliance and the Transition Alliance giving us some of their updates. So Dan, I will turn it over to you, and I will just let me know when you want me to change the slides.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah. Hey, everyone. My name's Dan Polikover. I'm with the Office of Assessments and Standards, which is just down the hallway from OSIS, and I am the Accommodations Program Manager. So a couple updates. The first one specific to GT assessments. So GT assessments are very unique in the sense of we use Cog Iowa, and then students qualify based on Dimension A, Dimension B for the performance task. Well, naturally, things can't move smoothly. We have different accommodations for the performance task than we do for Cog Iowa. So we notice this as a concern as students are taking the first two, and then we have to wait for the results, and then we include it in the updated accommodations for the performance task. So for my EdPlan users, you'll see now that the performance task accommodations are listed at the bottom, and it says if the student is found eligible. So you would select those during your annual review to say, all right, if they qualify based on Dimension A and Dimension B, we would want them to have these accommodations going forward for the performance task. For any users out there that are enriched users, just be mindful that these are the accommodations that you would want to include and to document on the IEP that they are only for the performance task assessment if they qualify. So you'll see I checked all the ones for Cog Iowa, and then your PTA stuff are at the bottom. So quick update on gifted and talented. And then for our next part is for SC Alt eligibility. So this is Appendix A and Appendix B. These are documents that you guys have already been completing. However, most of these documents have completed by hand. I did make them fillable. So your teachers can copy and paste, they can input it all on the computer, print it out, make it a little more reader friendly. And you can find this information in the EdPlan under the Assessments tab. For those users that aren't using EdPlan, we're going to make sure to update it and have it on our website. So you can go onto the Department of Ed website, download these, and use them at your will. So exciting. I learned a lot about Adobe and how to program this stuff, so I'm glad it's up and running and accessible. All right, so for our next form, which I'm incredibly excited about, if anyone here has worked in North Carolina, this form will look very similar or very familiar, excuse me. It's our review of accommodations form. So I have an example over here on the right, and you'll see that this form is also fillable, however, not everywhere. And that's very intentional that not all of this form is fillable, as parts of it are completed on test day. So the birth of this form came from the overwhelming amount of testing security violations that we've been receiving based on not providing accommodations on test day. So that's where we started. And then there's also benefits for it for future planning for IEP meetings. So we're going to kind of go through the boxes. We're going to start up at this top component, which is all the student info, and then we'll get into how the form is used. Sarah, if you go to the next slide. Good question about the forms. All of these forms will be available on EdPlan, and then following this is kind of my last group of people to present it to. Following this meeting, we'll have it updated on our SCDE website. So my forms, these review of accommodations forms will be on my accommodations page, and then Appendix A and Appendix B will be on our SCL page. So this top portion is the student data. So this would be student name, what tests, IEP dates, name of the test, and then the subject or subtest is super important to include, as we know that not every student gets the same accommodations on every assessment. So it's really important to include that information there. If you go to the next slide. So here's our first example of where you can't fill it all out on the computer. So you would check if it's regular or makeup administration. You can list the school and the grade. However, test date and test administration, or test administrator, excuse me, should be completed on test day, as we know that sometimes things change. Yeah, maybe Miss Smith's supposed to give this assessment. However, Miss Smith calls in sick, and now Miss Jones is going to be the one giving that assessment. So it's intentional that those two boxes are not fillable. So you have to handwrite that information in on test day. If we go to the next slide. All right, so column A. Column A is where we can check off beforehand which accommodations are provided to the student. This can be completed by your school testing coordinator, most likely your case manager, as they're the ones that would most be in charge of this plan and be updating the information, but you'll be checking off which accommodations for that specific test are available. You can then print your name through the fillable, but we would want you to sign to assure, hey, I read the IEP, I know this thing's up to date, everything is current and relevant, here's my signature, this form is ready. This form would then be delivered to your school testing coordinator or whoever's grouping your students. This would be great for once all your forms are completed. Now it's going with your bucket that would be delivered to your test administrator. So they would have a form for every student that would be requiring accommodations on test day. And this is for, I set it up for IEP and ILAP students, and then there's a lot of overlap with your 504s. But again, this is just a resource. This is not a requirement at this moment. There's still some room to kind of tweak this form in the future after we see how it works. So let's look at column B, which is the meat of this form. So we have the first column, and excuse me, this portion would be completed by your test administrator on test day, whether it's during the testing session, hopefully towards the end of it, because we need to be actively monitoring, or right after. So this first column says, was the accommodation offered to the student during testing? And we pray that the answer is always yes, and it always should be yes. We should be offering the student the accommodation if we agreed upon it in that IEP meeting. This next box allows for a narrative. Oh, excuse me, if you go back a little bit. So this next box is the
Sorry, Dan.
narrative. No, you're good. So this box is the narrative of how was that accommodation delivered? And if it wasn't delivered, please explain why it wasn't delivered. So this could be something very simple. Hey, if a student's testing in a small group, you could say, Steve tested with 6 other students in a separate setting. Boom, there it is. It's great. However, this is also a spot where we can provide some really good information for future planning. For example, if you have a student that has large print as an accommodation, however, they reject it on test day, this is a form where you can document that information. Steve was offered a large print version of the test, however, rejected this accommodation and took it online, or took the test, the online test form. So we're getting that up-to-date data right then, completed by the test administrator right in the moment, no questions, and they have that reminder of, oh, this student's supposed to have read aloud. I wrote yes that I offered it. Let me assure that that accommodation is being provided. So it's a security check to make sure that we are very much providing these accommodations on test day. And then you'll see at the bottom of the form, you would print your name and sign your name. These are not fillable because we would want these handwritten on test day. All right, Sarah, let's go to the next slide. And everyone can see my bad handwriting on this next slide. So I tried to do an example form that would be completed, and you can kind of see the parts that I typed in and then the parts that I wrote in blue. So you'll see that the student demographic information up there in that top corner. You'll see the name of the school and the grade. However, that date and the test administrator were written in. The check marks on the left side, I clicked on, and then I hand wrote our example. So the next slide will show us more description on that column B. All right, so I zoomed in on my terrible handwriting so you guys can all see it. So you'll see very easy explanation for the first one. Yes, student use oral admin through TTS on computer. We have documented, this is what I did, this is how they used it. Same thing, student dictated response for TA for recording. Now this last one, the accommodation was multiple testing sessions in a single day. Yes, it was offered to the student. We made sure that they are aware of that accommodation before the testing window. However, the student completed the test in 35 minutes. Therefore, they didn't access that accommodation. This is super important going into those planning meetings with parents, because we know that parents often look at accommodations as a buffet. If I want a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and we have to look at what is the student actually using on test day, and then what are they using all year long, because we should be modeling accommodations based off of what their classroom performance looks like. So on this form, we were able to document, hey, we didn't use multiple testing sessions. It wasn't appropriate. So when we go to that IEP meeting, we can look at this as a data point and say, should this accommodation be included for the future? Why maybe they finished this test so quickly? They knew the knowledge so well that they just flew right through it. What was our reasoning behind it? So it's just another way to document student info and make sure that it's up to date, current, right there from test day. I'm not sure if I put another slide after that. Sarah, can you click to the next slide just in case? Is
And
that
this
the
is your last one, but
Okay, fantastic.
yep,
So
yep. The
my
next one is
final
Carolyn. Yeah.
Okay, so my final point about that form, again, it is just a resource. However, it's a great resource, I believe, for schools that have had these testing violations, and it is our number one testing violation across the state of not providing accommodations on test day. This form is a fail-safe to make sure that that does not happen and that the individuals that are providing them in the school are held accountable. So if you have some schools that are struggling with providing accommodations, have had violations in the past, this might be a form for you. If you are interested in using this form, again, you can take it straight from our website, but I would love some feedback in how we can adjust this. We do have an alt version of this form as well, which includes alt access. Don't have access on the other form. And then my final point is, what do you do with this form when you're finished? My advice would be to scan and upload it into EdPlan. So it's right there. So in your documents tab, so people can access it, as well as keep it in the student's CUME folder. So come annual review time, you can pull out all of that paperwork and you have it all documented. So if you have any questions about the form, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm super excited about it. I definitely want to talk about it, and I'll make sure it gets sent out to the state. And thank you. I really appreciate you guys letting me jump on your call.
Yeah, Dan, thank you for joining us. And oh, hang on. So I've forgotten, was your email address on your first slide, or would you like to put it in the
Oh,
chat perhaps?
I will
Or,
put it in the chat because I have a difficult last name.
okay, that's great. Thank you so much
Yes,
for joining us
absolutely,
today. And
absolutely.
oh, there it is. All right. Have a great day. Carolyn, you are up next.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Carolyn Bostic from the OSIS data team. Just a couple of things that we wanted to share with you that we shared on the data collection reporting call on last Thursday. We're going to talk a little bit about some data reporting changes that's coming in the system or that's happening in the system. Just some reminders on what to do for indicators 7, 11, and 12. And just to kind of brief you on what the plan is for the 24-25 school year for indicators 8 and 14, and just an update on the profiles and determinations. Next slide, please. So as we learn EdPlan SC and how it works, right now, when districts are downloading those spreadsheets to check their data before uploading to SCDE, please do not alter your spreadsheets. When you alter the spreadsheets and another district is not, it makes it very hard for us here at the state level to aggregate those reports into one report. So we kindly ask that you do not alter those spreadsheets before sending to us. We also wanted to remind you to reconcile your data when it pertains to indicators 7, 11, and 12 and table 4. We know that we transitioned towards the end of last school year from Enrich to EdPlan SC. And so those students that left your district, please make sure that they are inactive in your system and those evaluation complete for indicators 11 and the BabyNet referrals are actually completed and closed out. So if they were reported last year on your report, they need to reflect that in the system and not show on this year's report. However, if they are showing up, and you're having issues reconciling that, first check the student history to make sure that it's not duplicated in there and it is actually closed out properly before you submit that Zendesk ticket for support. So please refer to the student's history to make sure that it's actually closed out properly in the student history in EdPlan SC before contacting support for assistance. For indicator 7, Go back one, sir, not just yet. For indicator 7, it is in the process of being updated. So if you try to run that report prior to April 3rd, it is going to look the same, where 90% of the students' data are missing. So please wait until after April 3rd to run those reports. We've also we're adding a flag in there, flag added for less than 180 days of services. So that's going to help assist us in completing those reports. April 11th is the systemic verification check for indicator 7, but we wanted to give districts an opportunity to resubmit 12 because of the check boxes, and we'll talk about that a little later on. The check boxes were not consistently checked the same throughout the state, so it skewed the data at our level here at the state. And so just for consistency, we are offering an opportunity for you to resubmit indicator 12. Participation is not required. It is only optional. So we just wanted to make that clear. If you do want to resubmit indicator 12 to get engaged of what issues are in your system, go ahead and submit those on April 12th. And if you submitted previously and you do want us to check the data, yes, you do need to resubmit. Also, for the grade levels, please make sure that all of your grade levels are accurate in PowerSchool prior to your final submission of prior to May 30th. That way, anything that comes in after or in the month of June, we are assured that those grade levels are correct. XG, adult education, AE, PO, P2, P3, OS, UG, NG, and blanks are not valid. So those need to be corrected to display either the -2, -1, 0, or grades 1 through 12 in the system. And if you're having issues, please consult with your PowerSchool coordinator for assistance with those grade levels. Next slide. When you are completing your evaluation, there's a page in the system. Right now, it's showing 3 options: LEA failure, parental delay, and other. Please do not select the other as an option, as that option will be removed. The only 2 valid options will be parental delay and LEA failure. Both will require an explanation. And we are rewording or renaming LEA failure to LEA delay. So we just wanted to brief you on that, but if other is selected, we are going to do a soft change behind the scenes, but do not select that option from here on out because other will be removed. So the only 2 options you will see for overdue reasons are parental delay and LEA. It will be LEA delays. Likewise, for the C2B transition, we are removing the NA as a valid option for you to select and forcing you to select one of the actual BabyNet factors. And any information that you would like for us to know, you can notate those in the BabyNet comments box. So just wanted to brief you on those changes. Do not select the NA and do not select other, as those options will be going away with the next update. Next slide. As we prepare the reports for indicators 7, 11, and 12, we did want to provide some insight to the districts to be sure that everybody is completing these screens the same way for consistency across the state. So what we're asking you to do is select the school year and select all the options as they appear on the screen as of the child count date, which is 10/22/24 for the 24/25 reporting year. This will ensure that all of the data is coming to the state the same way, and we at the state level will do the excluding at this level versus you guys trying to figure out what to include and what not to include. Next slide. Likewise, for indicator 11, we have the reporting year and the child count date, and we did not include a slide with the school's name because the school's name varies from district to district. So we wanted to just highlight to you to make sure that you are deselecting your test schools or sample schools, any schools that's not one of the valid brick and mortar schools in your building. So when you submit the data to us, we are sure that is actually inclusive of all active students in your districts. Next slide. For indicator 12, likewise, we do want you to select the school year, and we want you to check all of the boxes except the one that says exclude blank. By leaving that blank, it will include that information. And once again, we will do the excluding at the state level. So by not selecting that box, it will give us that information. But if you opt to check that box, it will exclude it. And we do not want you to exclude any information. So we want you, when you're running the indicator 12 report, we want you to complete this screen as it appears in this screenshot. Next slide. As it pertains to indicator 8 and 14, for this reporting year, if you are in Ed Plan district, Ed Plan SC district, there are no submissions required for you, but our enriched district should submit their data to us via ADT, and we should have received that on March 28th for those enriched districts. But there is no submissions for the districts that are using Ed Plan SC for indicators 8 and 14. PCG, OSIS, and the order team here at SCDE are working together to generate those reports for the districts. And once we have it and it is cleaned and scrubbed, we will provide you a copy in ADT for your records, and also request any additional information that may be missing from the report. Next slide. For those reports, indicators 8 and 14, what's highlighted in yellow are information that will come from the ODS system, and the age as of child count, primary disability, and LRE are data that comes from the Ed Plan SC system. Next slide. Just a reminder, the districts that we are looking to receive data on for indicator 8 are the districts that are listed on the screen only. So if you are not one of the districts listed for indicator 8, you don't have to worry about that for the 24-25 reporting year. And the enriched districts would submit their information via ADT for this year. Next slide. The profiles and determinations, we're in the process of creating your draft profiles and determinations for FY 23-24. And we hope to have that in ADT by mid-April, which will give you about a month to review your data and inquire about corrections. So mid-May, we expect to have your responses back and give us maybe about a 2-week turnaround to get any corrections or make any corrections should there be any, so that we can have it posted to the website by June 2nd. And remember that the data profiles measures how the districts compare to the annual performance report, the state performance plan. So when you hear us reference the SPP APR report, that is what we are doing. We are actually comparing your individual's data for indicators 1 through 14 to how the state measures on the annual performance report. Next slide. We are including a proposal for the early childhood performance factor. As you know, performance factor 7 for early childhood was a gimme based on the coast completion. So it was the number of students that had entry and exit scores at least 180 days divided by the number of students who had entry and exit scores for 180 days. So to add some more substance to the early childhood performance factor, we are splitting performance factor into 2. So performance factor 7 will become performance factor 7 and 8. 7 will be the LRE for 6A. And if your results is better than or greater equal to or greater than the state target, you'll get the 1.5 points. If it's better than the state data, then it's 1 point. If it's better than the previous year, then it's a half a point. And if there's no improvement at all, you get no points. We're adding, as you know, indicator 7, the COAST Child Outcome Summaries, has 6 parts to it. And so we are looking at 4 or more of the COAST outcomes to meet or exceed the state target for the 1.5 point, 4 or more targets to be better than the state data to get the 1 point. And if those two are not so, then 4 or more of the outcomes is better than the previous year, then you get the half a point. But if there's no improvement at all, then it's just you get no points at all. Next slide. That concludes the data collection and reporting update. So we just wanted to give you some insight so that when you receive that information, you'll have some background knowledge or background information of what you need to do when you receive that information. And I thank you for your time and your attention, and I turn it back over to Sarah.
Thank you, Carolyn. That's awesome. Okay, next, here we have our educational interpreter professional development opportunities that are coming up. So the ASL sessions that will be offered at Summer University during June 10th, 11th, and 12th, thanks to Robert Hill, our statewide consultant for deaf and hard of hearing children. Here are the titles. I was having a little trouble getting the descriptions in there, but they are all right in the registration piece. So prosody and ASL interpretation, and you can see the rest of them. I won't read them to you. These are great for all of our educational interpreters, but they are especially good for those whose EIPA score is on the lower end. Then at Clemson in our Educational Interpreting Center in July, the week of July 7th, they will have these 3 sessions here, and there is a link for them to sign up for that. And of course, there's no registration cost. As a reminder from the session 2 weeks ago, districts can choose to reimburse them for their travel expenses, meaning mileage. Now this is exciting. We have not done we've been wanting to make sure we advertise the mentoring a lot more, because when you get that one-on-one help from somebody, it's obviously much more in depth and really helpful to you. So educational interpreters can sign up at this link. It will be, they have to commit to 2 to 3 hours a week of deliberate practice on specific competencies. So the interpreter and Jen Place Lewis will look at their EIPA scores and confer on like where they might need to, what they might need to work on the most, and they will have those individualized meetings over Zoom and work on that. And that will obviously help increase their EIPA scores. And I will put all of this in an email to you, so you will have it. And I'll also so you'll have it in a location, one simple location. It'll be in your Google Drive as well. Next, we have our South Carolina teams updates. And first is our Academic Alliance of South Carolina.
Hi there, that's me.
Hey, Susan, great to have you. Thank you.
Thanks. Just a reminder about our Evidence-Based Practices Network. Our last one for the year is April 30th. You can register by clicking on that link or the QR code. Graham Thomas will be doing that session. I may be a little prejudiced about this, but he is a former special ed teacher who very successfully used co-teaching and has been an assistant principal and now a building level principal. And he's really going to talk about the systems that it takes to build co-teaching. And we know that's where we have a lot of problems if you don't have the right schedule and have the kids instructionally grouped who need those supports. And so he's going to give some helpful hints for that. On April 30th. It's 45 minutes. Please share. It's a great thing to share with some of your building level principals, in fact. All right, and the next one, Summer University website is open, and we've already had some registrations coming through. Be sure you share this. Be sure you share this with general educators as well. It's a great opportunity for learning. I'm going to keep on harping on this. Almost 70% of our students spend 80% or more of their school day in general education classrooms. So we all need to have those strategies and intervention support. So we're looking forward to that. All of our SE team members have worked really hard to put together a dynamite professional learning opportunity. And this is just highlighting our sessions, and I will not read this out loud, but we listen to you. We have reduced things to, except for one, everything else is reduced to 1 day. We will have reading for secondary, reading for elementary. With Dr. Devin Kearns, Dr. Brad Witzel will be doing our math training, a K-5, and then a secondary. And these will be based on interventions that can be used by general and special ed teachers. They, of course, they will be talking about how to intensify these interventions during the training. And then we'll have something on progress monitoring with Dr. Erica Lemke. If you've never heard her, she's fabulous. She's at the University of Missouri, great presenter. I'm so excited we've gotten her to come join us. And she will be talking about how to use progress monitoring data for instructional decision making. And I think that's it. Oh, last thing. Didn't realize this was here. We do want to know if there are trainings that you would like to see. We want to be able to provide those for you. If you'll take just a moment, there's just a couple of questions on this form, and give us some ideas if there's something you know your district needs, so that we can get people in, the right people in to train and plan.
Thank you, Susan. Great. Good information. Next up, we have the Transition Alliance of South Carolina. Is
and
it?
Unmute this time. Okay.
There you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Sarah. This is TASC stands for the Transition Alliance of South Carolina. My name is Mike Studs. Worked with TASC for several years and would like to briefly give you an overview of what we do and a couple updates on some exciting new things that we have in the works. Of course, TASC is part of the SE Teams Statewide Technical Assistance Network. And we are co-targeting increasing or improving secondary transition at the school district level, as well as improving graduation rates and reducing dropouts. And some of you might be aware that, you know, if you're working with us universally or target or intensive, but there are 3 different calibers, and all of the technical assistance providers in SE Teams, you know, have this type of structure. Okay, so quickly, I'd like to share with you, and I'm sure no one has their phone out, but perhaps if you could dig in your desk or purse, if you'd like to check these out. These are 2 new additions. One's exclusively for the high school credential, for those that are exiting high school with the high school credential. It's our employer engagement webpage. And this webpage is a landing page that currently we have a couple student success stories, which are very compelling. I would definitely encourage you to watch those if you haven't already. And also we're starting to hear from employers who have hired extras of the high school employability credential. And now that they have left school, they left high school, they're working full time in a profession or in a job because of the skills that they were able to acquire while they were in the employability credential program. The second thing, I'm sorry, the second thing was still on that slide. Sorry, thank you, Sarah. You're doing a great job in guessing when the slide should be changed. The post-secondary education options in South Carolina is a new app. You can click on it here. It's also found on our app at taskapp.org. And what we did originally, we wanted to have a resource for case managers when they're having discussions with students that are leaving high school without a high school diploma of what their options would be for a post-secondary education. So on this app, we've included all of the 16 technical colleges, information on enrollment and admission, and then it expanded. Now we've also included, we now have the life programs, all 6 life programs that are in the state, as well as all of the 2- and 4-year colleges and universities in South Carolina. And just as of 3 days ago, we were able to add information for the technical colleges, specific information on financial aid and where they might go to, search through those options, because not all programs are necessarily funded for, free money, but it would be, we were hoping and hope it will be a resource for your teachers, for your case managers, as they are working with students that are exiting high school this spring. We have a newsletter that goes out once a month. So they're definitely, if they are on our newsletter, if they've signed up for our newsletter, they're definitely going to get this information in the month of April and going into May and on and forward. But we wanted to make sure that they had this resource available to them when they are, working with students that are exiting this school year. Okay, and just briefly, our website, or as I previously mentioned, the Task app, depending on how you like to go, if you're more of a smartphone person when you're sharing resources or whatnot, the app might be better for you. But all of our all of our resources, our learning modules, our training and events calendar, all of that is located on the website and also on the app. So it really doesn't matter. We just want to try to get it to you at the way that you prefer to have that information, those resources. And thank you for the links in the chat as well. Okay, just briefly, want to let you know that the State Transition Conference will be held in Greenville again this year from the 20th to the 22nd. And we do not have registration open yet, but please be on the lookout for that. We'd love to have as many school districts represented as possible. And going on right now, and as it relates to the high school employability credential, we have a community of practice that is focusing on work-based learning. And if you just share the URL taskapp.org, all of these resources and everything I've mentioned and signing up for the newsletter can be had by simply using that one link. And I think that's it. Any questions, or if there's any comments, please let us know. We'd love your feedback and to try to make things easier and better and more functional for you.
Thank you, Mike. I don't see any questions in the chat. And as you mentioned, Jenny has been putting some links over there for the SC credential and some other things. So
thanks, Jenny.
Make it a little
Appreciate
happy.
That.
Absolutely.
Very welcome.
So just as a reminder, our next meeting is April 15th as we meet on the 1st and 3rd Tuesdays of the month. I thought I'd add a little bit at the bottom there. It's also Good Deeds Day, National American Sign Language Day, and of course, make sure your taxes are done by that day. If you have any questions, feel feel free to reach out. We're always here to give you a hand with whatever it is that you need. Thank you for all you do. I know we say that each time, but we truly mean it. So have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Sarah. You too.
Thank you.